Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games. Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Walking in Burano. A deceptively small game with a lot of clever design decisions made in it. I'll go over a few of them today. So basically the idea is that you are drafting cards from the center of the table. So there's a bunch of cards in the center of the table, and depending on your player count, we were playing a 4-player game. There was a 3x5 grid of cards in the middle of the table, and the cards generally look like this. So this is the top of a building, and you're drafting those cards so that you can build 3-story buildings of the same color. So there's a kind of a middle section of the building that goes here, and then another section of the building that goes below it. And the end of the game is triggered when one player has built 5 buildings that do that. That 5 buildings, each of which are the same color, and buildings next to that building must be a different color. And there's all these little set collection elements. Like there's a character that you can get whenever you complete a building that looks at the number of flowers in that building. There's stuff that looks at different things in different rows across all of your buildings. I won't go into all those details today. That's the gist of the game. But there are a couple really cool mechanisms that go into making this happen and giving you some interesting choices while you're doing this. One is when you gain cards. So there, as I mentioned, a 3x3 grid on the table of random cards. So there's a random like roof cards. There's a random middle, and there's a random like street level cards. And when you buy cards or when you gain cards, you choose one column from the middle of the table, and you gain either 1, 2, or 3 cards all in a row. So I can gain 2 in a row, for example. And for every card you choose not to gain, you gain a coin. So if I only choose to gain 1 card, I'll gain 2 coins. And that's important because whenever you want to build one of these cards or put them into your tableau, it costs 1 coin per section that you put in there. So that, I think, just the card drafting mechanism of choosing how many cards that you want to get at that exact moment and getting coins for the cards you don't get. I like that. 2, I like that you don't necessarily need to put these cards directly into your tableau at that moment. You have a hand size of 3 cards. And this is actually my favorite mechanism, even though it's a very simple thing. But I like the idea that you're drafting something, whether it's cards, tiles in a game, but not necessarily needing to place it at that moment. You can, and oftentimes you will. And there's another thing I'll show you in a second that contributes to why you might play it right away. But I like the option to hold it in your hand until the moment that you're ready for it. Just a little subtle difference there. But if you're drafting something from the middle of the table in a game like this, where there's very precise set collection and where there's restrictions in terms of what you can actually build, I like the option of reserving stuff until you're ready. The other thing that adds to that, the reason that you might go ahead and just place it in the building, is that every card, or in your tableau, every player has 2 of these, what are they called? Scaffolding cards. You have 2 of these, and these can substitute temporarily for a section that you don't have yet. So for example, if I have this roof right here, this red roof, and I have a ground level red card, but I don't have a middle yet. You have to build from the ground up. I can't build a roof, think about it in real life, I can't build the roof until I have a middle section of the building. So I can use this scaffolding card, really this side, as a temporary replacement for that. I actually don't think, you don't need the roof one. I don't think you can use this as a roof, but I like that these can sub in for your buildings temporarily. That's a really clever touch to give players flexibility while they're playing. The last thing I really like mechanically about this game is I mentioned this 3x5 grid in the middle of the table of all these different random cards that you're pulling from. At the end of each round, so it is a round-based game, and basically the game designers seem to decide that instead of having, when I pick some cards, instead of having those cards automatically fill in, they do it at the end of the round, which I think is an interesting choice. I'm fine with it. I don't always love games with rounds, or I don't love the choice to add rounds into games, but I think it works here. And the reason I think it's interesting here is that at the end of the game, or at the end of each round, all the cards that weren't selected slide over. So they all slide to the right, and they kind of just fill in slots. And the result can be really, it reminds me a little bit of like Bejeweled styled mobile games, in that sometimes after that slide happens and more random cards come into play, cards can align in different ways. I mentioned earlier that you can only select cards from one column. And so there might be like a yellow card over here and a green card and a yellow card over here and a yellow card over here in separate columns. But after the shift, at the end of the round, those 2 yellow cards might align into one column. There might even be 3 yellow cards in one column, which is awesome because, as I mentioned earlier, when you build a building, all the sections of the building must be the same color. And so with a single draft move, I could select all 3 yellow cards all at once. But I just like how they're shifting and kind of evolving from round to round, changing the value aspect of each column that you can select from. Last, I want to mention one quick production element that I thought was clever, just a little thing. I don't know if you can quite see it here, but yeah, you can kind of see it there. Look at the coins. They are gold foil coins. These are cardboard coins, but they really feel much fancier because the type of paper used for it is gold foil paper. And I thought this was just a really nice touch. I think this is a great way, if you have cardboard coins in the game, to make them feel considerably more special, maybe 2 or 3 times more special. Use gold foil paper on them. I don't think that's that more expensive, but it really does add to the aesthetic of the game. Anyway, as you can see, there's a lot of mechanisms that I thought were really clever about this game, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about walking in Burano in the comments below. Thanks.